क्या था कामागाटा मारू जिसके चलते इंडिया में रॉयट्स तक होते हैं? कामागाटा मारू एक जापानीज शिप था जो कि 4 अप्रैल 1914 को बाबा गुरदित से के अंडर हांगकांग से कनाडा के लिए रवाना होता है। इस शिप में टोटल 376 पैसेंजर्स थे, जिनमें से 340 पैसेंजर सिख थे, 24 मुस्लिम एंड 14 हिंदू। पर जब ये शिप 23 मई 1914 को कनाडा के वैनकूवर पहुंचता है तो सिर्फ 24 लोगों को ही कनाडा में एंट्री मिलती है, क्योंकि सिर्फ उनके पास ही कनाडा का परमिट होता है। जिसके बाद इस शिप को वापस भेज दिया जाता है एंड जब 29 सितंबर 1914 को ये शिप कलकत्ता के बिजवज पोर्ट पर पहुंचता है तो वहां पर पहले से ही ब्रिटिश पुलिस इनका इंतजार कर रही होती है। एंड जब ये पुलिस बाबा गुरदित सिंह एंड इनके साथ बाकी लीडर्स को अरेस्ट करने लगती है तो पुलिस एंड लोगों के बीच झड़प शुरू हो जाती है एंड देखते ही देखते रॉयट्स का रूप ले लेती है, जिसमें कई लोग अपनी जान गंवा देते हैं। तो दोस्तों शेयर करो इस वीडियो को अपने उन दोस्तों के साथ जिनको इस बारे में नहीं पता एंड फॉलो करना ना भूलें।
Jesus ਕਹਿੰਦਾ blames a God while he's on the cross, right? Guru Arjan Dev Ji ਕਹਿੰਦੇ what you're doing to me is sweet. Why do we need to become Christians? Why Sikhs becoming Christians? ਮੂਰਖ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਣਦੇ ਆ। ਆਪਾਂ ਸੋਚੀਏ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਈਏ, ਇਹ ਨਾ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਬਣ ਜਾਣ। ਹੁਣ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸੀਏ।
Pope Francis today issued a long-awaited apology to Canada's Indigenous people for decades of cultural genocide. The Pope called the abuse Indigenous children suffered at schools run by Catholic missionaries, quote, catastrophic. More on this from CBS's Chris Livesay.
A dark chapter and a feeble pope trying to turn a new page, honoring generations of Indigenous Canadians, past and present, amid the sacred native rituals the church once sought to erase. I've come to your native lands to tell you in person that I am pained and to beg God for forgiveness, the Pope says. From the late 1800s to 1997, more than 150,000 Indigenous children were taken from their families to attend residential boarding schools. The goal? To forcibly assimilate them and make them Christian, often violently punishing them for speaking their native language, even cutting their long hair. It was a common saying at the time, kill the Indian, save the man. Richard Green spent 9 years at a residential school.
It was horrid. It was horrid. Yeah, that's to say the least.
I'm here to remember the past and to cry with you, Francis said, before receiving a high honor, usually reserved only for chiefs. A church that once sought to suppress a culture, now humbled by it instead. Now, the grim legacy of these boarding schools is not unique to Canada. There were once more than 400 of them in the United States as well. Earlier this year, the Interior Department issued a report citing withholding of food, solitary confinement, and beating of Native American children there. Major?
Chris Livesay, thank you.
Trudeau has shown little care for Canadian Hindus, and it's time for our community to stand up. If we don't, our temples will continue to be attacked by Khalistanis and will be ignored. But no one's talking about how this affects Canadian Hindus like me, born and raised right here in Canada with no ties to India, yet somehow we're caught in the middle just because we're Hindu. It seems like our voices don't matter, and we've let this happen. Trudeau's government has done nothing for us, yet we still don't speak up. In this video, I'll talk about the history of Sikhism, the rise of the Khalistan movement, and how Canadian Hindus have become stuck between the politicians, the Khalistanis, because we lack the courage to stand up for ourselves. Finally, I'll share with you a call to action that every Hindu in Canada must do if you want to see a change within our community. Sikhism originated in the 15th century in the Punjab region, which is now split between India and Pakistan. At the time, both Hinduism and Islam were experiencing significant change in the region. Guru Nanak, the founder and the first Sikh Guru, emphasized the idea of Ek Onkar, one supreme reality. He rejected both Hindu polytheism and Islamic dogma, promoting unity and challenging caste systems and religious conversions. Sikhism, however, is a Dharmic tradition, not to be confused with any of the Abrahamic faiths, and it developed in the concept of Khalistan, a separate homeland for Sikhs, emerged in the mid-20th century, primarily as a response to the perceived discrimination and marginalization of Sikhs within India. The partition of India in 1947, followed by the post-partition violence, exacerbated these feelings of insecurity and discrimination. In the 1980s, a small but vocal group of Sikhs became increasingly radicalized and resorted to militant tactics to achieve their goals of a separate homeland. The Air India bombing was a tragic event that occurred on June 23, 1985, resulting in the deaths of all 329 people on board. 268 of those individuals were Canadians, making it the deadliest terror attack on Canadian soil.
Realized that there would probably be
people, 86 of them children, are dead.
The suspects, Sikh extremists hoping for an independent homeland in India.
Sadly, this event doesn't register for Canadians as a Canadian terror attack since the victims were of Indian origin. Today, the Khalistanis have been allowed to grow their support base in the diaspora, Canada being a prime example. Hinduism in Canada has a history that is tied to Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. During the 1970s and the 1980s, there was an influx of immigrants from around the world to Canada as the doors opened up. My father was part of this group when he arrived in Canada in 1972 from the island of Trinidad and Tobago. Today, if you ask many older Canadians, particularly those not born in this country, why they think highly of Pierre Elliott Trudeau, one answer stands out. He opened Canada's doors to immigrants. They invested their time, raised money, and worked hard to establish physical Hindu spaces. I know it wasn't easy as I lived vandalism and attacks on Hindu temples here in Canada. July 2022, Vishnu Mandir in Richmond Hill, attacked. September 2022, BAPS Toronto, attacked. January 2023, Gauri Shankar Mandir in Brampton, attacked. February 2023, Ram Mandir located in Mississauga, Ontario, attacked. April 2023, BAPS in Windsor, Ontario, attacked. July 2024, BAPS in Edmonton, attacked. The first question that came to my mind is, why are Hindu temples being targeted by Khalistanis? This next clip probably holds the answer. Speaking here was Ajay Singh Bagri at the World Sikh Organization Convention on July 28, 1984 at Madison Square Gardens in New York City. He was calling for the murder of 50,000 Hindus in response to Operation Blue Star, a military operation conducted by the Indian Army between June 1st and June 10th, 1984, under the orders of then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to remove Sikh militants from the Golden Temple in Amritsar, Punjab. Operation Blue Star and the ensuing 1984 riots made Sikhs feel alienated from the Indian government. They stopped thinking of themselves as part of India, and instead they started to think of themselves as a separate group of people, a Sikh community spread out all over the world. The enemy for them is the Indian government, and Hindus, who form the majority of the population in India, who elect the Indian government by default, also become their enemy. So what does that mean for Hindus in Canada, like myself, with no ties to India? Issues within their own communities like crime or extremism are ignored. This problem is a confusing one because in India, Khalistanis are in a very small minority. You go abroad, however, and this changes with vocal supporters living in Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. These groups also use a false sense of loyalty to the Trudeau name. You can write all the letters you want, but it means nothing if you're going to perform Arti of Justin Trudeau in front of the murtis of your temple. So in effect, we have Khalistanis in bed with our politicians.
I believe we have a motion or a point of order from the Honourable Member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Mr. Speaker, there have been discussions amongst the parties, and if you seek it, I trust you will find unanimous consent for the following motion. This House acknowledged the genocide of Tamils in Sri Lanka and recognized May 18th of each year as Tamil Genocide Remembrance Day.
All those opposed to the Honourable Member moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. Motion is carried.
What's easy over what's right. So what is it you can do as a Canadian Hindu? First, find your voice and don't be a soft Hindu. You need to speak and you need to act. Don't hide in your homes. Demand that all your elected officials denounce Khalistani separatism. This takes courage and it takes guts. Write letters, talk to your MP, pressure them by telling them what you as a Hindu are going through when you see your temples being attacked. The next one is probably even harder. Demand that all of the temple administrators stop bowing down to elected officials. Remember that these elected officials depend on us to vote them in. If you are part of a temple administrative group, make sure that you vet all politicians coming to your event. If they support Khalistanis, don't invite them. It's that simple. Get involved at your local temple. If you are not a regular volunteer, no one will ever listen to you. The Hindu demographics have changed within Canada the last number of years, and you need to have your voice heard. The final thing you can do is support my channel. There are not a lot of people speaking about the issues affecting Hindus in the diaspora.
கனடாவில் வரும் ஏப்ரல் 28ஆம் தேதி பொதுத் தேர்தல் நடைபெற உள்ளது. இந்த நிலையில் காலிஸ்தான் ஆதரவு வாசகங்கள் அங்குள்ள ஒரு கோவில் மற்றும் குருத்வாராவின் சுவர்களில் எழுதப்பட்ட சம்பவம் பெரும் சர்ச்சையாகியுள்ளது. குருத்வாராவில் நிகழ்ந்த இந்த சம்பவத்தை கல்சா திவான் சொசைட்டி எனப்படும் சீக்கிய அமைப்பு கடுமையாக கண்டித்து அறிக்கை வெளியிட்டுள்ளது. இந்த சம்பவத்தை கண்டித்து கனடா நாடாளுமன்ற உறுப்பினர் சந்திரா ஆரியா தனது எக்ஸ் தளத்தில் பதிவிட்டுள்ளார். அதில் பல ஆண்டுகளுக்கு முன் துவங்கிய இந்து கோவில்கள் மீதான தாக்குதல்கள் இன்றும் தடையின்றி தொடர்கின்றன. இந்த சமீபத்திய சம்பவம் காலிஸ்தான் தீவிரவாதத்தின் வளர்ச்சியை நினைவூட்டும் மற்றொரு கவலையளிக்கும் எச்சரிக்கை என அவர் பதிவிட்டுள்ளார்.